I didn't know my life was about to split cleanly in two at exactly 2:17 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. One version of me still believed I was married to a brilliant, ambitious man, a man I trusted, a man whose success I quietly supported from the shadows. The other version of me, the woman I would become in the next few hours, understood something far darker, that loyalty is only real when power is invisible. My name is Diana Chen. I was 42 years old when I learned that betrayal doesn't arrive with screaming matches or lipstick on collars. Sometimes it arrives silently, through a phone notification you almost ignore. I was sitting in my downtown office, reviewing quarterly investment projections, when my phone vibrated softly on my desk. Motion detected. Master bedroom. It didn't make sense. My husband, Jason Martinez, had left that morning wearing his tailored navy suit, rushing out the door while complaining about a critical board presentation that would supposedly keep him at the office all afternoon. I remembered the exact words because he'd barely kissed me goodbye. Normally, I would have dismissed the alert. The security system was something I'd installed years ago out of habit. Old instincts from a life where control meant survival, but something made me open the feed. I watched my husband walk into our bedroom with calm, deliberate steps. No hesitation, no surprise. He went straight to his dresser and pulled out deep red lingerie I had never seen before. Not once in 10 years of marriage, I felt my stomach drop, as if the floor beneath my chair had vanished. On the screen, he changed quickly, efficiently. This wasn't a moment of passion, it was routine, practiced. He checked himself in the mirror from multiple angles, adjusted his hair, picked up his phone, and left. 12 minutes. That's all it took. I sat there, completely still, my pulse roaring in my ears. For months, I had ignored the signs, the late nights, the sudden phone calls taken in other rooms, the way he flinched when I touched him, always blaming stress, deadlines, ambition. But this wasn't suspicion anymore. This was confirmation. In that moment, something inside me went cold and clear. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw my phone against the wall. Instead, I made a single decision. If my husband had chosen deception, then I would respond with truth. The kind that destroys illusions, careers, and entire lives. And he had no idea who he was actually married to. Before everything fell apart, before the truth cut through my marriage like glass, my life looked ordinary, intentionally so. I'm Diana Chen, 42 years old. To the outside world, I was a moderately successful business consultant, someone who worked with tech startups, helped them refine strategy, scale operations, and navigate early-stage chaos. My reported income hovered around $200,000 a year. Comfortable, respectable, forgettable. That was by design. In reality, I was the founder and controlling force behind Nexus Technologies, a company I had built from absolute nothing into a billion-dollar empire. Almost no one knew that fact. After being burned badly in my mid-20s by men who loved my money more than they loved me, I learned a brutal lesson early. Visibility attracts predators. So I disappeared behind shell companies, private trusts, layered holdings. I dressed plainly, drove a modest Honda Civic, lived in a quiet suburban house that blended into the neighborhood like background noise. Power is safest when it's underestimated. 10 years ago, I met Jason Martinez at a charity fundraiser. I still remember him vividly. Tall, impeccably dressed, with that magnetic confidence that ambitious men carry like a second skin. He worked at Apex Dynamics, a mid-sized but respected tech firm in our city. He spoke with conviction about growth, innovation, leadership. His ambition burned openly in his eyes. The chemistry was immediate, intense, dangerous. We dated for a year before getting married. During that time, I never lied to him, but I never revealed the full truth either. I showed him tax returns from one of my smaller consulting LLCs. I explained my work in vague but plausible terms. He seemed content with that version of me, or so I thought. We bought a comfortable 3-bedroom house, took modest vacations, Lake Tahoe, a few coastal towns, nothing extravagant. Jason never complained directly, but I noticed the subtle shifts over time. The way his eyes lingered on luxury cars, the way he compared himself to other executives at industry events. Jason worked brutal hours. Apex consumed him. He climbed the corporate ladder with relentless focus, attending endless conferences, networking dinners, strategy retreats. I admired his drive, I truly did, but gradually, admiration turned into pressure. "Don't you want more?" he'd ask over dinner, swirling wine in his glass. "Why don't you chase bigger clients? You could start your own firm. You're settling." I always smiled calmly, told him I valued balance, that I was content, that not everyone needed to dominate a room to feel fulfilled. What Jason never knew was that I already owned the room. 5 years earlier, when Apex Dynamics was quietly bleeding cash and preparing to lay off half its workforce, a mysterious shell company called Horizon Holdings injected $50 million overnight. That shell company was mine. And over the next 3 years, I continued acquiring shares through layered entities and offshore vehicles. By the time Jason started openly criticizing my lack of ambition, I already owned 28% of the company he worshipped. I never told him. I wanted to believe he loved me without needing my power. That belief would cost me everything. Looking back now, I can trace the betrayal to a series of small fractures. Moments so subtle I dismiss them as stress, ambition, or the natural erosion of long marriages. At the time, I wanted peace more than truth. Jason started coming home later. Not occasionally, consistently. At first, he'd call ahead, voice tight with urgency. "Emergency strategy meeting, client crisis. The board won't let us leave." I believed him. Or maybe I chose to. The calls became shorter, the explanations thinner. Sometimes he wouldn't call at all. When he did come home, the smell wasn't dinner or office air. It was hotel soap, unfamiliar cologne that clung to his clothes like a quiet accusation. When I reached for him, he flinched. "Not tonight," he'd say, already pulling away. "I'm exhausted." His phone never left his hand. If a message came in while we were together, he'd turn his screen away instinctively, stepping into another room to answer it. When I asked who it was, he'd smile too quickly. Work. The word became a shield, an excuse that shut down every question. His family noticed, too. His mother began making pointed comments during Sunday lunches. "You know, a man like Jason needs a woman who supports his rise." "You're very comfortable, Diana." Comfortable. The word dripped with judgment. His sister once laughed lightly and said, "You're lucky he's so patient. Most men wouldn't settle." Jason didn't correct them. That silence hurt more than any insult. At Apex, whispers followed him. I heard them through my own channels. Finance directors, HR managers, people who reported numbers and patterns without emotion. Jason was known for mentoring ambitious women, for offering guidance that blurred lines, for closing office doors late at night. I told myself it was corporate gossip. Then there was the award ceremony. 6 months before everything exploded, Jason's team received an Industry Excellence Award. When his name was called, I stood to walk with him onto the stage, proud, smiling. He shoved me back into my seat. "Stay," he hissed under his breath. "You're embarrassing me." The room went quiet. Heat rushed to my face. I sat back down, stunned, applauding alone while he accepted recognition without looking at me once. That night, he apologized, claimed stress, claimed pressure, claimed he didn't mean it. I accept because I loved him, because admitting the truth would have meant accepting that the man I married didn't respect me, didn't see me as his equal, and because deep down, part of me still believed loyalty mattered more than ambition. I was wrong. By the time that Wednesday afternoon arrived, I had already been living with unease for months. It sat in my chest like a quiet weight, never loud enough to demand attention, but always present. I told myself that long marriages went through phases, that ambition could make people distant, that love didn't always look like closeness. Then my phone vibrated. Motion detected. I stared at the notification longer than I should have. My thumb hovered over the screen, my pulse suddenly loud in my ears. A part of me already knew what I was about to see, and another part of me begged to be wrong. I opened the feed. The camera showed our master bedroom from the corner angle I'd chosen years ago. Wide, clinical, impossible to misinterpret. Jason entered the frame with the confidence of someone who belonged there. No hesitation, no surprise. He walked straight to his dresser. My breath caught when he pulled out the lingerie. Red, delicate, intimate, something chosen carefully, something meant to be seen by someone else. I felt my hands go cold as I watched him change. There was no nervousness, no guilt written on his face. This wasn't a spontaneous mistake. This was routine. He checked himself in the mirror, adjusted his hair, picked up his phone. 12 minutes later, he was gone. I sat frozen, my office around me dissolving into background noise. My vision blurred, but I refused to let tears fall. Crying would come later, if at all. Instead, I did what I had always done when something threatened what I'd built. I gathered information. I called Tyler Brooks, my oldest friend, the only person who knew the full scope of my empire. We'd grown up with nothing in Detroit, clawed our way out through grit and timing, and never lied to each other. I need intelligence, I said, skipping every greeting. On Jason, everything, today. Tyler didn't ask why. 6 hours later, I had a complete dossier. Jason Martinez, affair partner, Brenda Cole, executive vice president at Apex Dynamics, married, 2 children. Known internally for sleeping with ambitious men and dangling promotions like bait. The evidence was devastating. Hotel receipts charged to Brenda's corporate card. Text messages calling Jason babe, discussing promotions as rewards. Security footage from the Riverside Hotel. Tuesday afternoons when Jason claimed to be in board meetings. 8 months. 8 months of coming home and kissing my cheek. 8 months of lies layered so carefully they almost felt loving. When Tyler arrived at my office, he expected rage. What he found instead was silence. I'm going to buy the company, I told him calmly. He stared at me. Diana, that's cold. I'm not buying her company, I corrected softly. I'm reclaiming the truth. People imagine betrayal as something explosive. Screaming matches, shattered glasses, doors slammed hard enough to wake the neighbors. That wasn't me. What settled over me instead was a terrifying calm. After Tyler left my office that night, I sat alone in the dark, the city lights glowing faintly through the glass walls. I replayed the footage again, not because I needed proof, but because I needed to understand how I had missed it for so long. I didn't feel stupid. I felt responsible. Responsible for trusting too easily. Responsible for excusing behavior I would have questioned in anyone else. Responsible for believing love could exist without respect. At home, I moved through the house quietly, as if sound itself might break me. Jason came back late, like always. He kissed my cheek absent-mindedly, smelling faintly of hotel soap. "How was your day?" he asked. "Busy," I replied, my voice steady. He didn't notice the difference. That hurt more than anything else. That night, lying beside him in bed, I stared at the ceiling while he slept peacefully. I studied his breathing, the familiar shape of his shoulders, the man I had built a life around. And I asked myself one question over and over again. When did I stop being enough? The next morning, I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I started preparing. I reviewed my holdings. Apex Dynamics, 28%. Quiet, invisible, powerful. I pulled up the profile of the CEO, Thomas Richardson, 67, exhausted, already shopping his shares discreetly. If I acquired his stake, I wouldn't just influence the company, I would own it. Tyler asked me later that day, watching me carefully, "What's your end game?" I thought about screaming, about exposing Jason privately, about walking away quietly. Then I remembered the award ceremony, The shove, the whisper, "You're embarrassing me." "No more invisibility," I said finally. I wouldn't humiliate him out of spite. I wouldn't punish him out of rage. But I would stop protecting the lie he had built his life on. That night, Jason talked excitedly about his upcoming promotion ceremony, 5 weeks away. He showed me the suit he'd bought, asked if I'd take the day off to attend. I smiled, told him I was proud. Inside, something hardened. If truth was going to surface, it would do so where lies had thrived, under bright lights, with witnesses, and no room left to hide. The next 5 weeks unfolded with ruthless precision. While Jason floated through his days wrapped in anticipation, talking about speeches, promotions, visibility, I moved silently, deliberately, behind the curtain he never thought to look behind. I called Michelle Torres, my attorney of 15 years. She knew my structures, my habits, my appetite for discretion. "I need controlling interest in Apex dynamics," I told her. Quietly, completely. She didn't blink. Within 48 hours, she arranged a private meeting with Thomas Richardson at the Hamilton Club, one of those old money institutions where real decisions are made behind wood-paneled walls and ironclad NDAs. Richardson was tired. That much was obvious the moment I sat across from him. He spoke of grandchildren, of missed birthdays, of a company he loved but no longer had the energy to fight for. When I laid out my vision, European expansion, increased R&D, protecting jobs instead of gutting departments, his shoulders relaxed. "You actually want to build," he said, "not strip it for parts." "I do," I replied honestly, "but leadership matters. Integrity matters." 3 weeks before Jason's ceremony, the papers were signed. Through layered holding companies that would take forensic accountants months to untangle, I acquired 51% of Apex Dynamics. Only 5 people knew the truth. Jason knew none of it. At home, he grew increasingly distant, nervous. His phone never stopped buzzing. He snapped at small things, complained about pressure, accused me, ironically, of being emotionally unavailable. His family intensified their comments. "You should really step up now," his mother said pointedly over dinner. "A man like Jason needs support at this stage." I nodded politely. Inside, I was done shrinking. Meanwhile, my internal sources confirmed something worse. Jason wasn't Brenda Cole's only target. 3 other women at Apex had been manipulated the same way. Promises of advancement, private meetings, hotel rooms charged to corporate cards. Signed statements were collected, evidence reviewed, legal grounds airtight. The night before the ceremony, I didn't sleep. I sat in my home office until nearly 3 in the morning, reviewing documents, timelines, termination paperwork. Down the hall, Jason slept peacefully, dreaming of applause and power. I thought about our wedding vows, about who I was when I said them. By morning, I was someone else. I left before he woke up. On his pillow, I placed a simple note. "Had to handle something urgent at work. I'll see you at Apex. So proud of you. Love, D." I wanted him calm, confident, unprepared, because the higher someone climbs on a lie, the harder the fall. The morning of the ceremony arrived, wrapped in silence. I stood alone in the master bathroom, staring at my reflection under the harsh white lights. I looked composed, calm eyes, steady hands, perfectly controlled posture. But inside, something was unraveling. This was the moment I'd spent weeks engineering. Every move calculated, every outcome anticipated. And yet, my chest ached. Power doesn't erase pain. It just gives it structure. As I dressed, memories surfaced uninvited. Jason laughing in the kitchen when we first moved into this house. The night we celebrated his first major promotion, cheap champagne spilled on the counter. The way he used to reach for my hand in public, before he decided I was something to hide. I told myself this wasn't revenge. It was truth correcting a lie. But standing there alone, I couldn't ignore the grief, not just for my marriage, but for the woman I had been when I believed love and loyalty were enough. At Apex headquarters, the energy was electric. Whispers filled the lobby. People clustered in small, nervous groups, speculating about the sudden retirement announcement emailed out at dawn. I walked in unnoticed, just another face in a sea of ambition. That anonymity hurt more than I expected. Some of these people had met me before, at holiday parties, at award dinners, as Jason's wife. None of them looked twice at me now. I had spent 10 years making myself small enough to disappear. Upstairs, in what was now my office, I paused before entering. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The view was breathtaking, cold, powerful. Robert and Sarah waited inside, efficient, composed. They spoke in clipped updates, confirming schedules, legal readiness, security placement. Everything was ready. And yet, when I finally saw Jason across the lobby, standing in his tailored suit, smiling nervously beside Brenda, I felt something crack. She looked confident, polished, powerful. The woman he had chosen. The woman he had lied for. For one brief, dangerous moment, I wondered what would happen if I stopped this. If I walked up to him, told him everything privately, spared him public ruin. Then I remembered the shove at the award ceremony. The whispered, "You're embarrassing me." The months of deception. The moment passed. As I waited backstage, listening to the hum of 300 people settling into their seats, I felt utterly alone. Not powerful, not victorious, just alone. This was the price of clarity, and there was no turning back. When Thomas Richardson stepped onto the stage at exactly 11 a.m., the room fell into a hushed, anticipatory silence. I watched from the side, heart steady, breath controlled. "Good morning, Apex family," he began warmly. He spoke of decades of work, of pride, of gratitude. Then he delivered the words everyone had been waiting for: his immediate retirement and the acquisition of Apex Dynamics by Horizon Holdings. The room erupted into shocked murmurs. "And now," Richardson continued, pausing just long enough to let tension build, "I'm honored to introduce the founder and CEO of Horizon Holdings and your new majority owner." He turned toward me. "Diana Chen?" I stepped onto the stage. The collective gasp was unmistakable, sharp, visceral, real. Faces froze. Whispers died mid-sentence. And then I saw Jason. He sat in the third row, confusion flashing across his face before recognition hit him like a physical blow. His mouth fell open. The color drained from his skin. Beside him, Brenda Cole went pale, fingers shaking as she frantically typed on her phone. I took the microphone calmly. "For those who don't know me personally," I said, my voice clear and steady, "I founded Nexus Technologies 15 years ago. Through Horizon Holdings, I've invested in companies I believe in, companies with talent, vision, and integrity." My gaze swept the room, pausing briefly on Brenda, then settling on Jason. "Integrity matters," I continued. "Not ambition that exploits others. Not advancement built on deception." The message landed like a blade. I announced promotions, strategic initiatives. Then I came to Jason. "Jason Martinez has demonstrated strong operational performance," I said evenly. "His promotion is based solely on professional merit and measurable results." Professional. Measurable. Jason couldn't meet my eyes. The ceremony ended in uncertain applause. At the private luncheon that followed, tension thickened the air. Jason stood by the windows, visibly shaking, untouched glass in his hand. I approached him. "Congratulations," I said pleasantly, loud enough for others to hear. "Vice President Martinez." "Diana, please," he whispered, panic breaking through. "We need to talk, privately." I leaned closer, lowering my voice just enough. "I'm showing you who I really am," I said softly, "just like you showed me who you were when you thought no one was watching." Before he could respond, I turned back to the room. "May I have everyone's attention?" Silence fell instantly. I looked directly at Brenda Cole. "As of this moment, your employment with Apex Dynamics is terminated, effective immediately." Gasps. Chairs scraped. Brenda stood, face flushed, voice shaking as she protested. I listed the charges calmly: sexual misconduct, coercion, misuse of corporate funds. Evidence, signed statements, board approval. Security escorted her out as her career collapsed in real time. Jason watched, frozen. He knew, and there was nothing he could do. The room didn't exhale until Brenda Cole disappeared behind the closing doors. People avoided each other's eyes. Conversations fractured into whispers. What had just happened was more than a termination. It was a public execution of reputation, power, and illusion. I softened my expression deliberately and addressed the remaining executives. I apologize for the disruption, I said evenly. But Apex Dynamics is entering a new era, one where integrity is not optional and leadership is earned, not traded. No one argued. The luncheon ended quickly after that. People left in small, stunned groups, already texting, already speculating. I returned to my office and closed the door, letting the silence wrap around me. At 4 p.m., I had Sarah formally summon Jason. When he walked in, he looked like a stranger. Eyes red, shoulders slumped, confidence completely stripped away. The burgundy tie he'd chosen so carefully that morning now looked like a costume from a life that no longer fit. "Close the door," I said quietly. He did. "How long have you known?" he asked hoarsely. 8 months and 3 days, I replied without hesitation, "since the affair began." His breath hitched. The precision terrified him. "And all of this," he whispered, gesturing vaguely, "buying the company, today. Was it all to humiliate me?" "Not everything is about you," I said calmly. "Apex is a sound investment. The timing was convenient." He stepped forward, hands clasped like prayer. "I made a mistake, a terrible one. We can fix this, counseling, anything." I stood. "Do you remember the industry awards ceremony?" I asked. "When you shoved me back into my seat because I embarrassed you?" His face crumpled. "Today," I continued, my voice steady, "when you realized your embarrassing wife owns your entire professional world, the look on your face was the truth." Tears slid down his cheeks. "Our marriage is over," I said. "Divorce papers will be delivered tomorrow. The prenup stands. There is nothing to negotiate." He begged. I didn't look up. As the door closed behind him, I listened to his footsteps fade. 10 years, ending in silence. The aftermath was brutal. Brenda's career imploded. Her spouse filed for divorce within a week. No reputable company would touch her. Jason's reputation fractured quietly. No scandal, just absence. Invitations stopped. Support evaporated. At Apex, I kept things professional. Jason worked harder than ever. To his credit, he earned what followed. 3 months later, during a conference presentation, Brenda, desperate and unstable, forced her way into the building and made threats. Security intervened. No one was harmed. She was arrested and later sentenced. The truth always catches up. 3 months after everything collapsed, the world had settled into a quieter, sharper shape. The divorce finalized without drama. The prenuptial agreement did exactly what it was designed to do. Clean, emotionless, final. Jason moved into a downtown apartment. We spoke only when necessary, always in boardrooms, always with witnesses. No raised voices, no lingering looks. At Apex, stability returned. Productivity rose. Fear dissolved into focus. People worked, knowing advancement was earned, not traded in shadows. I kept my distance. Intentionally. Power is clearest when it doesn't need to announce itself. A week before Jason left for his reassignment to Geneva, an executive role he had earned through relentless performance, I asked him one final question. "If you could go back," I said, "would you still do it?" He didn't answer immediately. "No," he said finally, "not because of your wealth, but because I learned too late that integrity matters more than advancement. Trust, once broken, doesn't grow back." I believed him. But belief doesn't undo damage. Before he left, he touched my arm lightly. "For what it's worth, I am sorry. Not for getting caught, for hurting you." "I know," I said, "but some things can't be repaired with remorse." He left. I stayed. In the months that followed, I launched a foundation supporting entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds, people who'd never had safety nets, just grit. It felt like closing a circle, like returning to who I was before power taught me caution. Some people called what I did cold. I don't. I call it clarity. Jason wanted power. He got it, along with the cost of how he pursued it. I learned who he was when he thought no one was watching. That education was expensive, but it was complete. And honesty, even when it hurts, will always be worth more than a comfortable lie.